Hello everyone, welcome back to Great Broadway Fan's YouTube channel. I'm Luke and today I have a very special video for you guys. But before we get started, first things first. I apologize for the lack of content that I have been posting on this channel. I haven't posted anything since my Tony predictions video, which was over 2 months ago. And I feel really bad about that. Also, I was playing catch up on my Great Movie Fan channel because there was a bunch of movies that I saw between March and June that I didn't review, and I just was playing catch up basically with the movies that I saw but didn't review. And I encourage you, please, I ask that if you are a subscriber to Great Broadway Fan, I ask that you please subscribe to Great Movie Fan because your support means the world to me. So you can find the link in the video description and you can go subscribe to Great Movie Fan. But today I wanted to post on this channel and I have something exciting planned. I wanted to do something big and I'm going to be doing a 4-part mini series over the next 4 weeks discussing movie musicals. So this week, for week one, is going to be about upcoming film adaptations of movie musicals, whether they are original content or based on a pre-existing stage musical. We're going to talk about upcoming film adaptations of movie musicals. Week 2 is going to be about the top 10 top 10 stage musicals that should be made into movies for the very first time. Week 3 is going to be the top 10 movie musicals that deserve a remake for whatever reason, whether they were unfaithful to the original source material, whether they're drastically different, whether the director was bad, whether the cast was bad. For whatever reason, the top 10 movie musicals that deserve a remake. And to conclude, for week 4, we're going to do the top 10 movie musicals that are done so perfect that they should never be remade. Now, for weeks 2, 3, and 4, you, the viewer, can still vote. I ask that you go on to my Great Broadway Fan Instagram account, and you can find the corresponding photograph that goes to the corresponding pop poll for each and every one of those topics. You can leave your thoughts and opinions on which musicals you want to see represented. Like I said, find me on Instagram, find those pictures, put in your votes. But for this week, we're going to talk about the upcoming film adaptations of stage musicals or originals, but movie musicals in general. So here's episode 1 of 4 in the Great Broadway Fan mini-series involving movie musicals. Let's get started. I've got my list here. And I have to say, it was very interesting because I basically was looking through a bunch of different articles on Broadway.com, Broadway World, and Playbill. Playbill is very interesting. I'll put a link in the video description to the article where I found a lot of this. And while some developments are relatively recent, a lot of these are very, very skeptical. So be forewarned. The first 6 that I am going to mention are actually happening. 3 of these first 6 are in post. They've already been filmed, and the other 3 are in pre-production. And 5 of these upcoming 6 have set release dates. So let's get started with the first one, which is an original movie musical entitled La La Land. And it is being directed by Damien Chazelle, who wrote and directed Whiplash, which was an Oscar contender last year. And it stars Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. It's being released in limited on December 2nd of this year and going wide on the 16th. And basically, the plot revolves around an aspiring actress named Mia, who is played by Emma Stone, serves lattes to movie stars in between auditions, while dedicated jazz musician Sebastian, played by Ryan Gosling, plays in dingy bars in order to scrape by, and the two meet and fall in love, but as success mounts, the dreams they worked so hard to maintain threaten to rip them apart. So it's classic boy meets girl, falls in love, and relationship gets tension. But it is going to be a musical, and the first teaser trailer has already been released, which you can find on YouTube. Okay. So next, we have Disney's live-action remake of Beauty and the Beast, which is going to be a full musical, with music by Alan Menken, the original lyrics by Howard Ashman, and the new songs written by Tim Rice. So the original 7 songs that were written for the animated feature will be in this live-action version. So that includes Belle, Belle's Reprise, Gaston, Be Our Guest, Something There, the title song Beauty and the Beast, and the mob song. None of the songs, unfortunately, that were added to the musical when it went to Broadway will be included in this live-action film version. However, Alan Menken and Tim Rice have written 3 new songs specifically for this movie adaptation. So there's going to be a total of 10 songs in this upcoming film version. We have a song called Forevermore, which is sung by the Beast. We have a song called Days in the Sun, which is sung by All the Enchanted Objects. And we have an untitled third song. As I mentioned, Disney is producing. Bill Condon is directing. He wrote the screenplay for Chicago, directed Dreamgirls, Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1 and 2, and the Broadway revival of Sideshow. Emma Watson, Dan Stevens, Luke Evans, Josh Gad, Ewan McGregor, Ian McKellen, Kevin Kline, Emma Thompson, Audrey McDonald, Stanley Tucci, and Gugu Mbatha-Raw all star. The teaser trailer is currently out, and the movie is set for March 17th, 2017. The next one on this list, this is the only film of the upcoming 6 that I mentioned that does not have a release date. It's already in post, but it is the film adaptation of Michael John LaChiusa's Hello Again. Now this was originally premiered off-Broadway in 1984, went to London in 2001, and then had a 2011 off-Broadway revival again. Tom Gustafsson, I hope I'm pronouncing that last name correct, will be directing, and it basically focuses on a series of love affairs amongst 10 characters during the 10 different decades of the 20th century. And Audra McDonald, Martha Plimpton, T.R. Knight, Rumor Willis, Cheyenne Jackson, and Nolan Funk all star. There is no set release date yet, and there is no trailer that has been released either. There's a couple of behind-the-scenes photos, but nothing major has been released for this. They were projecting for a 2016 premiere, but unless they pull a rabbit out of their hat and release a trailer within the next month or two and set for a December release, you're probably going to have to wait until 2017 for this movie. Okay, so next up, we have got Disney doing Mary Poppins Returns. Now, this is very interesting. Rob Marshall, after the success of Into the Woods, is going to be directing. Emily Blunt is going to be starring as the titular character. And instead of Bert, there is an original character that is being written named Jack, who is a street lamplighter, who's being played by Lin-Manuel Miranda. He departed Hamilton so that he could work on this. There is a set release date for December 25th, 2018, so a Christmas release in about 2 years. It's going to have an original score by Mark Showman and Scott Whitman. And as I mentioned, Emily Blunt is Mary Poppins, Miranda is playing Jack, and it basically follows, it's going off of material that's already been written by P.L. Travers, but it's basically a sequel where Mary returns to follow up on Jane and Michael, who are now grown up. It's 20 years later, and they're going to be, she's going to visit their children, Michael and Jane's children that they both had. And she's aided by Jack. And there's rumors that Lin-Manuel Miranda will be contributing to the score. Nothing confirmed, but we do know, as I just mentioned, Mark Showman and Scott Whitman are writing the score, and it's set for 2 years from now, Christmas Day. Now, another Christmas release, but this is a Christmas release for 2017, is The Greatest Showman on Earth, which is going to be starring Hugh Jackman, Zac Efron, and Zendaya from the Disney Channel. Michael Gracie will direct, And it's basically going to be a musical about the life of P.T. Barnum, who was the founder of the circus that became the famous traveling Ringling Brothers and the Barnum and Bailey Circus. It just set a release date for Christmas 2017, and it's basically been Hugh Jackman's dream project. So I'm really excited to see how it turns out. Next up, and here's the big one, the one that fans have been waiting so many years for, Wicked is finally moving forward with its film adaptation. Universal Studios has announced that it will be released on December 20th, 2019. Stephen Daldry, who directed Billy Elliot, will be directing the film. Stephen Schwartz has been brought back to work on the music and not only contribute new music that he recently said in a press release, but also he's going to be reincorporating some cut songs that are not in the Broadway version but were cut, and he's going to reinstate them into the film version. And Winnie Holtzman, who was Tony nominated for her book for Wicked, will be returning to write the screenplay. I have to say, I really enjoy that because it's so rare when the book writer gets to return to adapt their own work for film. James Lapine was brought back to do Into the Woods with Rob Marshall, and Stephen Sondheim, of course, wrote a new song for the Into the Woods film and reincorporated some new lyrics in certain places. No casting has been announced, but we have a set projected release date, and Wicked is finally moving forward. Okay, so now, the rest of the musicals on this list, we're getting into some murky territory because some of the information that I was able to find is recent and some of it's old, but basically this is planned adaptations. We don't know if they'll actually materialize at some point, but here's hoping that they do. All right, so Beautiful, the Carole King musical, which is currently breaking box office records on Broadway. It just opened in London. It's on a North American national tour. Jessie Mueller won the Tony for her performance as Carole King. Basically, Tom Hanks is going to be producing, along with Gary Goetzerman and Paul Blake. They'll produce with Sony Pictures and Playstone. And Douglas MacArthur, who wrote the book for Beautiful, will be returning to write the screenplay. And it is a jukebox musical with the music of Carole King, Gary Coffin, Barry Mann, and Cynthia Weil. No set release date, no cast, and currently no director. Okay, so if any of you are paying attention, the most recent revival of Cats just opened on Broadway on the 31st, and the film adaptation is currently in progress. Tom Hooper has been attached to direct, and of course Andrew Lloyd Webber will return as a music supervisor. But the announcement was made back in June. No set release date, no cast, and just the announcement that Tom Hooper will be directing a Cats movie. All right, so back when Finding Neverland announced that they were closing on Broadway, Harvey Weinstein announced that he wants to do a film adaptation of Finding Neverland. I don't know if this will actually materialize, but it's good to put movie musicals out there into the universe, and hopefully something might materialize of it. Finding Neverland is set to close this August. It's going to run on a North American national tour. No set release date, cast, or director, but at least there's been an announcement. Hopefully it might happen. Okay. Now, Guys and Dolls, which actually back in 2013, there were rumors speculating that that 20th Century Fox wanted to do a remake of Guys and Dolls with Channing Tatum as Sky Masterson and Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Nathan Detroit. Unfortunately, that fell through and it never got made. But just a couple months ago, they announced that Michael Grandage will be directing a remake of Guys and Dolls. And when there's a director involved, you know that you have some more plausible hope that this actually might in fact materialize into something. No word yet if Channing Tatum or Joseph Gordon-Levitt will come back to the project, but we do have a set director for an upcoming Guys and Dolls remake. Okay, Now this one, oh my gosh. I love Barbra Streisand. I really, really do. But I think that her passion project, which is doing a Gypsy remake with herself in the role of Mama Rose, is just getting really, really problematic. There were those really scary rumors that Lady Gaga and John Travolta were going to be in it as Louise and Herbie. Lady Gaga, I think she's amazing, but I think she's too old for Louise. And John Travolta at this point in his career, I don't think really should touch another musical again. He was great in Grease when he was younger. He was fantastic in Hairspray, but I think it's time that he not touch musicals anymore. Originally, Julian Fellows, who was the creator behind Downton Abbey, was going to write and direct, but then he left the project. And then Barry Levinson came on to direct. And now, just about 4 days ago, before I made this video, it was just announced that the distributor and the investors just pulled all of the money out of this Gypsy remake. So I don't know if this means that it's not going to happen. I personally don't think that Gypsy should be remade as a big budget movie. I would actually rather like to see Gypsy done live on television. And while I do adore Barbra Streisand, I think she's amazing. She was fantastic in Funny Girl and Hello Dolly when she was younger. But I really don't think that she's right for Mama Rose. At this point in her life and career, I think it would be a mistake. Okay. Next up, we've got In the Heights. Now, this is very interesting. Once again, this is Harvey Weinstein, and I think that the only reason that Harvey made this announcement that he is moving forward with a film adaptation of In the Heights is simply because of Hamilton's huge success. It was Lin-Manuel Miranda's first musical that he wrote. He won his first Tony. He won, I believe he won the Pulitzer, and I believe the show did win Best Musical. Don't quote me on that. But because Hamilton has just been so successful, I think that Harvey wants to capitalize on that momentum, which is why he probably decided to greenlight a film adaptation of In the Heights. I've never seen In the Heights. I know nothing about it. All I know is Hamilton. But from what people tell me, it is very, very different than Hamilton. So here's hoping that it actually materializes. Okay. Matilda. Now, Matilda is closing on Broadway. It's closing in January, which is very sad because I do adore that musical. I love it so much. Tim Minchin's score is fantastic. But Matilda actually made this announcement a couple of years ago, or maybe a year ago, that Matthew Warchus will direct, and they're planning for a 2019 release, which I'm very excited about. But then I read an article saying that they were likely to begin shooting in late 2016. There is no cast confirmed at this point. I don't know if they'll start shooting in 2016. They might start casting soon if they still want to get this up and running. But they were basically projecting for a 2019 release. Okay, next up, Miss Saigon. Now, the Miss Saigon is actually returning to Broadway in the spring. It's going back to the Broadway Theater where it originally opened, and it's coming back after its huge successful run in England. And Danny Boyle is going to be directing. No set release date or cast, but they're just putting it out there in the universe that Miss Saigon is planning on getting a film adaptation. Okay. Next up, Spring Awakening. Duncan Sheik basically made this announcement after the revival closed, and after American Psycho, which was his second Broadway musical that he wrote, closed, and basically how he wants to do a film adaptation of both. And while I seriously doubt that American Psycho could ever get a film adaptation, I think that Spring Awakening could actually work. I think that the music, from what I've heard, is gorgeous and beautiful. It's a very dark show, but it's very poignant, and it has a beautiful message that people really connect with. Stephen Satter will be writing the screenplay. No set director or cast or release date, but once again, just an announcement of an upcoming Spring Awakening movie. Okay, so Sunset Boulevard, once again, another Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, announced that Glenn Close wants to reprise her role, her Tony-winning role as Norma Desmond, for the big screen. There were rumors and speculations that she would do it as a filmed concert version, that she would do it on television as a TV movie. Now it's the announcement that she wants to do it on the big screen. But then, I just read this announcement 2 days ago. Glenn Close is returning to Broadway in a Sunset Boulevard revival in 2017. Or, excuse me, in italics, might return to Broadway in a Sunset Boulevard revival. Here's the thing. Like Barbra Streisand with Gypsy, I think that Glenn Close is an amazing actress. She's an amazing performer, but I seriously do not think that Glenn Close's star power is big enough to carry a big budget movie adaptation of Sunset Boulevard. And I seriously do think, because Andrew Lloyd Webber does not write traditional book musicals with scenes with dialogue and then songs, he writes sung-through musicals. Those don't lend themselves well to film. Phantom of the Opera was not successful. Les Mis was successful, and even though that wasn't Andrew Lloyd Webber, that was a sung-through musical, and that was very successful on film. Sunset Boulevard strikes me as the kind of musical that wouldn't work on film. However, I think that if you still do want to have Glenn Close, and you do want to film a version of Sunset, then simply just pro-shoot the revival with cameras and a live audience and release it for Fathom events so that people can watch it in theaters or release it on DVD. But a film adaptation of Sunset Boulevard, the only way that I could see it working is without Glenn Close. Someone bigger. Someone like Meryl Streep. Or just not a film version at all. Okay. All right. So this one, I am 100% supported behind this. A lot of people don't think that this movie musical needs to be remade. But Steven Spielberg announced that he wants to remake West Side Story. He has Tony Kushner was hired in June of 2016 to write the screenplay. And Steven Spielberg wants to remake West Side Story. I think that actually would be a very good idea. While the film version that does exist is it's an Academy Award-winning film, it's beautiful, it's forever cemented in movie musical history, I want a remake, if for no other reason that I want a Maria who actually does her own vocals. Natalie Wood was dubbed in that movie. And I seriously am the kind of person that stands behind the rule that if you're going to be in a movie musical, you have to do your own vocals. You can't have a movie star come to Broadway in a Broadway show and lip sync to someone singing off stage in a microphone. Why on earth would you do that on film? If it's for the only reason to really have a star name in the lead role, then that's shameful. Because if I was a director, I would cast people who are singers. Stephen Sondheim is the kind of person that says, I want people who are actors first, singers seconds. But with all due respect, Stephen Sondheim, your musicals are very intricate in your lyrics because they're basically sung passages of dialogue, which are beautifully well written. Just look at Into the Woods and Sweeney Todd and Passion and Follies and Sunday in the Park with George. But West Side Story, I think, deserves a remake because I would love to see it redone with a new look and a new vision, but also a Maria who does her own vocals. That would be really, really nice. And finally, Follies. Rob Marshall basically made this announcement after Into the Woods that he wants to remake Follies and he wants to do it with Meryl Streep. Now, whether she's going to play Sally or Phyllis is currently unknown. But Follies might work. If you got a big enough Hollywood cast behind this and you got the right director, and I do think that Rob Marshall is a very good director. With the exception of 9 and Memoirs of a Geisha, I think that Chicago and Into the Woods are two of the best movies, not only that he's ever directed, but two of the best movies that I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if this could ever happen. Follies actually I think would lend itself maybe better on whether you did it like a concert and you shot it with cameras in a live audience, like with the New York City Philharmonic. But who knows? Maybe Follies can happen. Now, the rest of these I found sprawled around the internet. I just think that these are like brain farts going out into the universe. Like, we're planning this, and it's like, we're gonna bring a movie musical onto the big screen, and it's like, really? Like, I looked at these articles, and some of them are like really old, and there's like going back to 2011 and 2012, which is kind of problematic. The older you get with a release that you're going to be making a movie musical is kind of problematic. So there's been announcements that 13, the Jason Robert Brown musical, American Idiot, they wanted Michael Mayer to direct it, The Drowsy Chaperones starring Jeffrey Rush, Hugh Jackman, Anne Hathaway, and Barbra Streisand, Frank Wildhorn's Jekyll and Hyde, a remake of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I found this one really shocking. A remake of Little Shop of Horrors with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That was back in 2012 when I found that article. And no, Little Shop is perfect. Don't ever remake Little Shop. Lysistrata Jones, Memphis, Toby Haynes was going to direct a remake of Oliver. The Weinstein Company wants to do a Pippin movie. Michael Mayer was going to direct a remake of South Pacific with Hugh Jackman, Justin Timberlake, and Michelle Williams. But like I said, these are basically like brain farts going out into the universe. And I have to say that I think movie musicals are unfortunately a bit of a dying art. I think that even though the live musicals that are done on television by NBC and now Fox, and then ABC's getting involved, and they've got some great ones coming down the pipeline. NBC's doing Hairspray this December. Fox is doing the Rocky Horror Picture Show event this October. ABC is planning on doing I don't know if it's live or not, but they're planning on doing Dirty Dancing. But I seriously think that movie musicals, while they're an unfortunate dying art, I think that they should still be made, because there is an audience, and if done right, it can be successful. So, you know me, I'm a great fan of Broadway. I love movie musicals. I want there to be more. So, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you are not already subscribed. You can follow me on my social media. The links are in the video description. My other channel, GreatMovieFan, please go support that channel. I really would appreciate it. And next week, we're going to be doing the top 10 stage musicals that should be brought to the big screen for the first time. Once again, you can still vote for that. Go on my Instagram and vote. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.